Hi, and welcome to the Bouncing Back Podcast, Professionals Thriving with Chronic Illness. I'm Melissa McCurley, your host, and someone navigating life and business with the challenges of autoimmune disease. This podcast is about resilience, inspiration, and actionable strategies to help you thrive, no matter where you are in your health journey. In each episode, we'll share stories and insights from professionals who've bounced back stronger. Let's redefine what it means to live and thrive with chronic illness. Now, let's dive in. Hello, I'm Melissa McCurley. I'm your host for today's podcast. And for over 20 years, I've been a professional TV and film actor, realtor, and real estate investor. In 2020, I had a major life reset from autoimmune disease that forced me to step away from pretty much everything. 2024 was my first year back full-time in real estate business, and now I'm passionate about sharing stories and strategies for creating success while living with chronic illness, because it is possible. And I'm so excited to share with you today our guest, David Russell. David is a fellow realtor with eXp. He spearheads an enormously successful real estate business here in the DFW Metroplex, the Russell team. They've sold over 800 homes in the area. Last year alone, they did over $27 million in sales, with career sales over $300 million. David, that is super inspiring and outstanding, and I'm so grateful to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Pleasure likewise. Well, let's just get right into it. I know you have a personal story of your own journey with autoimmune disease. Can you tell us a little bit about when that showed up for you and how it impacted your business and life?
Sure. In having several years to really reflect back on this, it's been an interesting journey. And when this originally kicked off in also the spring of 2020, like yourself, I didn't really understand that I have been seeing signs of this for several years. So I'm going to go back 2018. I found myself falling asleep driving during the middle of the day. And my body type and energy is like a dragster. When my eyes open, it was full throttle until 10 p.m. when the lights went out. There was no overdrive or no slow. It was full throttle. In 2018, I started finding myself being a little fatigued during the day mentally. I would have to pull over and take a nap at a gas station for 15 or 20 minutes in the middle of the day. And so that I started trying to offset that with taking healthy energy drinks. Probably didn't realize it at the time, but the energy drink I chose, its primary ingredient was a sweetener, sucralose. And I think that just probably pushed over my body and telling me to slow down, right? We've got things building. 2018, 2019, 2020, I look like Michael J. Fox if I don't have a hat on. I had hair that combed to the side, very straight. I woke up with a perm one morning. Overnight. Went to bed, woke up. My wife looked at me and she used some profanity, and she doesn't use profanity. What happened to your hair? You have a perm. That's not possible. I went and looked in the mirror, and my hair was straight back, wavy and curly like yours, Melissa. It was curly.
Overnight.
Wow. And I just kind of put my hands through it, and there's my hair in my hands.
Oh, no.
So I had my hair, I didn't lose it all, but I lost about half of it. What I learned was it was what went curly fell out over the next few months.
Wow.
And instantly overnight, I went from running full throttle, 100 hours a week, to massive debilitating fatigue and massive debilitating brain fog. I understood intellectually what that means, but could not comprehend the depth of that until I slept 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
And would speak to people on the phone and not remember them 30 seconds after we hung up, but didn't even know I talked to them.
Yeah.
It was quite a startling situation because there's no MD, there's no medical answer for this, right? Chronic fatigue syndrome. That's what they give you. There's no treatment for it. Very few doctors have any level of treatment. So that led to my journey in functional medicine, which you and I have talked a lot about.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Wow, that's a lot. And, that's how it happened for me too. I think us drivers, we just don't pay attention to the more subtle signs. I woke up one morning just in so much pain, I could hardly breathe, Didn't lose my hair. I think I would have, I'm not sure if I would have been in more crisis over lost it. I'm just kidding. But that overnight shift, I think people, unless they've lived that journey, it's hard to really articulate how overnight it is.
Yeah, it's, and I don't mean to use this as a comparison lightly, but it's like a heart attack or a stroke. It's instantaneous.
Yep.
And it is, if it wasn't for my wife at the time was my business partner, and one of our boys was our transaction coordinator. If it wasn't for them to handle our business, I would have had to liquidate everything because I couldn't really work.
Yeah, for sure. I get that. I just had to step away for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Well, and so that was my next question. So a support team. So you had your wife there, you had your son helping to run the business. Did you step back from the amount of business you were doing, or were you able to kind of carry it? How did you make space, I guess what I'm asking, for the next step, which was working with the functional doctors, all the treatments, all the learning, right? We kind of both made a full-time job out of the research piece. How did that work for you?
Well, I mean, they pretty much handled all the client interactions. I worked a little bit in the background, but it was sporadic. You can, and I didn't realize at the time that I was having the brain fog. I mean, I knew I had brain fog, but I didn't really understand the degree of it at the time because you're in it.
Right.
And you don't see the forest through the trees. It's not until you start coming out of it, you think, oh, wow, this is how I'm supposed to feel. So my wife and our son, them handling kind of the front end customer interaction, listing the houses, showing the buyers. They kept our business together, and I had built a business mostly by referral. So I don't do a lot of cold calls or mailers all of my business comes from a database. Right. So they all know who we are. The vast majority of them know my wife or knew Michael. And so it made it much easier for them not to see me.
Yeah. So the power of a business built on relationships that's not just you gives that fluidity, gives that space whenever we have to pull back. That's something I didn't have. I hadn't created that like you had. And so, I pretty much just had to pull out completely. So that's amazing. And that speaks too to just the level of business that you'd built, already.
Yeah. You don't really realize that. I mean, I knew I was building it by referral, and that's kind of always the way I operated. But had I been on a lead-based business relying on cold calls or prospecting or direct mail and having to convert leads, we would have been out of business.
Right. The lead gen piece for sure.
So we're just very fortunate. There were pieces in place that really worked for us.
That's awesome. Sometimes you don't see those in your life. I had those with relationship and support until you need them. And so you mentioned functional medicine. We shared some of the things you did there, some of the strategies, approaches that worked well for you.
So I've always been a believer in functional medicine. I've had back surgery for a bulging disc, and that person was a acupressurist. So I've been going to her for over 20 years. And unbeknownst to me, she had migrated into functional medicine. And I had kind of been going to organic functional medicine. You kind of just get into that algorithm on YouTube when you're searching out, why am I tired in the middle of the afternoon in 2018, and what are the causes of this? And you see Western medicine and they say, here's a pill. And I'm like, there's got to be more to this. And I have a doctor in my family, and I'm talking with him, and they just have a limited scope of root cause sometimes. Not always. There's a place for them. But I was a strong believer in functional medicine already. So I just went to her name is Dr. Heidi. She's over in North Dallas. Wonderful person.
I'll link her below.
Yeah, give her a plug. She's awesome. So I started going to her. Now, I mentioned I'm a full throttle dragster kind of guy. And Heidi was a little bit more passive than what I like. So I went and found also, functional medicine's a lot of what you learn. One person knows. Yeah. And while they're incredibly smart and very knowledgeable, I wanted to get an MD's perspective as well, somebody that was integrated. So I went to a gentleman named Dr. Hoffman up in Frisco. He's a MD and a functional medicine.
Like an integrative doctor? Would he call himself an integrative doctor?
Yes. Okay. He has our story.
I had one of those too.
He has our story. That's why he's functional medicine today. because as an MD, he became very ill and couldn't help himself. He stumbled, and the same with Heidi. They stumbled on Dr. Hyman, and they went to the functional medicine school he's affiliated with.
Gotcha.
So I went to both of them for a while because they were attacking things from different perspectives. But they did a level of blood work and they did a level of analysis that my relative, who's I call him a Doogie Howser because he's just an encyclopedia. He looked at 20 of my blood panels and said, I can explain this to you, but I cannot tell you how to fix any of this.
Gotcha.
Or where to go to get it corrected.
Yeah.
So that kind of cemented my belief in functional medicine. And then it was just a journey. I equate it to a spider web. You have all these massive things, and you have whether it be candida or SIBO or mitochondrial dysfunction. There's tons, testosterone, estrogen. You got all these things going on.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
I call it a gumbo. My analogy is a gumbo. Yours is a spider web, similar. Yeah.
It is, and it's all intertwined. So, you just have to start with one and just process of elimination. And it takes years to work through it. Okay, great. One thing that, again, instantaneous gratification. We're realtors, right? You get a deal, you close it, it's done. Everything's quick. It does not work like that.
No, sir.
Functional medicine. Oh, it could take 6 months. I'm like, no. Where's the nuclear waste? I want a pill. I want this done. I want it done today. And it just doesn't work that way. So it's a journey that you have to go through.
So it sounds like a big piece, and this was true for me as well, was the physical part, but also sort of the expectation and the surrender piece of surrendering to the process, because that's what it takes to get. You're still fighting.
I didn't do so well with the surrendering. You can call Heidi; she'll tell you. No, I haven't surrendered yet.
I surrendered to patience, not to the disease, but to it's not going to happen overnight. Because the more I found, the more I pushed, actually the worse I got. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to, breathe into this, so to speak, as they say in yoga. I don't like it.
Melissa, I'm not so good at that. She gave me this. These drops, and she said you're going to start with taking 5 or so twice a day, 10 twice a day. And I said, well, what's the ultimate goal? She said the ultimate goal is 15 drops 3 times a day. So guess what I did? I went home and did 15 drops 3 times a day.
Did you get sick?
No. She asked me that. She said, did you get sick? Because that should have made. I said, no, it didn't make me sick.
You're like, I'm already sick. So
should I do more? No, I am not a patient man.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you. So now you're up and running. You're, at least from my end, you seem to be at full throttle or very close to. Are there still things that you're living with on a day-to-day, week-to-week, or month-to-month basis? And how do you create space for that while you're back at kick-ass level performance?
Yeah, thank you. The hardest thing to accept is there's no finality. Mm-hmm. You just don't wake up one day and it's gone. So, residual for me is a lot of food reactions. And what I've pretty much had to cut down what I eat. It has to be a natural food product, not cooked with a bunch of ingredients. So meats, vegetables, fruits. That's it. Nuts. And even then, sometimes I'll wander off just a little bit. The other day, I had some rice. Within 15 minutes, it looks like somebody blew me up with an air compressor. I'm all bloated. Yep. My knuckles are all white. I'm all puffy today from something. My face is all inflamed. And you just don't know what it'll be, because you go out and even you order grilled meat at a restaurant. I'll do a lot of fajitas at Mexican restaurants. That's no oils, just grill the meat. They sometimes will put ingredients on the meat, or they've injected it with something. You just don't know. And then you deal with the inflammation and it takes a week to 10 days, and sometimes it's fatigue. I'll eat something and I can feel my brain going to sleep, and I'll tell my wife my brain's going to sleep. I gotta just block some time, and this is going to take 15 minutes to an hour. You don't know how long it'll be, and it might happen once in a month. It might happen every day for a week. It's just it just depends on what I eat. It's just the weirdest thing.
And it's hard as realtors because we're out and about so much. So I find that whenever I've time periods when I'm working more from home and I'm doing more listing and lead gen and not buyer showing, I do better with my food. And then I start doing a bunch of buyer showing and I eat something and I don't know, did I get gluten? Did I get MSG? Did I get soy? The list is so long.
It is.
And so, yeah, you're always trying to have that balance. Well, one of the things we've talked a little bit about hot saunas, one of my big power tools is, I went to State Fair of Texas, shout out to the greatest establishment in the history of the world. And, my dad actually for Christmas, for early Christmas present, got me a infrared sauna. And that's been one of my major tools and it'll clear that much faster.
Oh,
Yeah, it's because I get it in my hands, my feet, my ankle, the whole, and I'll get in that sauna for an hour. You have to build up to the heat and you feel better the same day. Not perfect, but 50% better.
When you come from 5%, you don't know what perfect is anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was first, I one of the challenges I had was just wrapping around my mind around the idea that I had a chronic illness. I didn't like that. I'm a student of Tony Robbins. Okay. I've gone to all of his stuff. We've talked about this. Like there's no chronic, there's chronic. Right. Awesome is what there is. Right. So it took the longest time for me to just kind of accept that and say, okay, I'm not going to surrender to this identity, but I have to create space for the truth of the situation I'm living. Right. And see, the story had a point. I've already forgotten it. Brain fog. But, what was this about saunas? Oh my God, that's so crazy.
Just how it helps you with the day you're in there.
Oh yeah. And so, anyway, so one of the tools is I finally had to be like, okay, I actually have to build some things into my life to create space for not if I get a flare up, but when, right? Yep. Not if I feel bad, but to shorten the time that I do it. And if this isn't even about excellence anymore, this is about, well, it is because what shape I'm in creates space for excellence.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's been a game changer for me. So
that's on my list.
Okay, well, but move it to the top. State Fair of Texas coming up in September.
There you go. I need one.
Yeah, they're great. So another question I have is I know that we spend a lot of time in this space with chronic illness talking about all the challenges because there's a lot, right? But is there anything that you could speak to in your experience that was something positive that came out of it? Maybe an awareness, some type of gift or growth that you've had that you could attribute to this health journey that you wouldn't have probably otherwise had?
An awareness, it just allows me to share my story with other people who are driven and who are hard, like I am and I was, especially if it's a sole provider. So you have a lot of men generally who are driving, their spouses are home taking care of children, and they are the breadwinner. And if they go down, the results can be significant, or the issues, the challenges. So I just share my story with them in hopes that they're monitoring what they're eating, they're listening to their body. Had I listened and done something in 2018, I wouldn't have had the 2020 crash.
Right.
And just to go back to that for a second, we were looking at some things in 2018, but we weren't looking at everything. And that's what I should have done in 2018 was done all the blood panels. Right. We did some cursory blood panels and said, and actually it was just really, I had ultra low testosterone. And that's when Heidi's like, Dave, look at this, is crazy low. Okay. And so we thought it was that, and then that medical practitioner thought it was a little bit of thyroid. So we didn't dig deeper.
Gotcha.
So what I recommend to people is go get your blood panels. Go get 10. There's a lot of them. Go get them all. At the worst case scenario or best case scenario, you're going to just get a baseline, right? You're going to know this is where I should be when I feel great. Exactly. Instead of leaning on energy drinks or leaning on caffeine, I get to coffee to just overcome. Yeah. Look, just benchmark it where it's at. Yeah. And until you're taken out at the knees. I agree with that. If I could go back to my younger self, I would say, and I was getting some testing done. I knew I had some issues. I had IBS forever, but make it the priority it needs to be now before it becomes the priority, because you can't go one more step. Yeah, because if you're the primary breadwinner in your home, or the majority, and you're out like I was, I couldn't work.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about.
I was just going to say, it's hard to go to your employer and say, I have chronic fatigue. They're like, what is that?
Yeah. Well, go to bed earlier. Right.
Yeah. Get a pill.
Yeah. And I hadn't thought about, what you spoke to of being the primary breadwinner. I would say my husband and I are pretty 50-50 on it. We don't have children. The fear that must go along with that, the shame, all the things, the emotion around that, that wasn't part of my specific experience. And I love it that you spoke to that, because that's a whole other layer, right, of pressure on a situation that honestly, to get better, you kind of have to take some pressure off. Yeah.
So in our business, Melissa, I'm the driver. I'm the hunter. We don't have the lead gen machine. That's a negative of building it the way I did. I am the machine.
Right.
And so, my wife was my business partner, and she's an amazing realtor. She handled our listings. She's not a huntress. She's not going to go hunt.
Right.
So she's more of a farmer. And so, you hand it to her, she's going to do an amazing job with it, but she's not going to go out and kill it.
And they're all key, but they start with the hunting.
And that's a big lesson for me, and that's really my insight to people. If you are that primary person, have your baseline and just pay attention, because it give an eye. And the rest of my story where I have more of that. But
yeah, thank you for that so much. So one thing, for people who are right now really stuck in the place where they are living in the day-to-day, moment-to-moment of symptom management, which like the darkest place in this journey, what would you say to them? What words of encouragement would you say to them as they move forward along the path to being closer to where we are now?
I would say just acknowledge it, know that you have it, and don't allow it to impact your life. You can't dwell on it. It just is what it is. And so that I'm going to have to be extremely careful when I'm going out to this restaurant. I'm going to be the weird guy at the table that dissects the menu. And no, it's not because I want to. It's because if I don't, I'm going to have ramifications. I'm going to be, inflamed, or it's going to have some other impact on me. So I don't make a big deal out of it. You just accept it and move on. Yeah. And I know that's hard for some people, because it becomes part of their identity. And they just focus on it all the time, and you can't do that. You just have to accept, this is what I'm eating. I'm alive, and I get to eat this. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. For a long time, I had a lot of shame around. I didn't want to go to the restaurant and be that girl who's like, I want this, but I want this on the side, and does this have this? Right. And I'm no dairy, no gluten. Because we all know people who do that for attention, right? We all have some avatar in our mind of that. Oh my God, that person. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be that person. I want to be the easygoing person that everybody feels comfortable with. But you're right. At the end of the day, it's like, it's how you do it, right? Not what you do. And above all things, we have to prioritize our health. But other people think about that can, second, third, fourth.
Yeah, and if they're going to ridicule you for it and give you and just create a lot of around that, then they're just maybe not people you should be around anyway.
That's it. That's great. Barometer of who really are your people, who are your tribe. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, do you have any final words for the audience? We're kind of getting to the time spot here. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, I think get your baseline blood work. Even if you feel healthy, 25-year-olds should go out and run these panels. There's 10 or 15 panels. Yet your medical doctor, your insurance won't pay for it. Yes, it's a little bit of money, but should something happen in the future, this is where I should be. This is what is normal to me. Because when you get these panels at 60 years of age, they're going to give you a range, but that range may not be you.
That's it. So track your KPIs.
That's right. That's
just
right.
Like we do, just like we
exactly
do business.
Right. And once you get them, you own them. You know what they are, and you're able to live your life to that.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. I mean, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you touching on the integration of the Western and the alternative, and bringing those together, and your journey, and the support you had from your team, and the fears and the struggles around this. I think everyone who's listening today is going to be able to really have some takeaways, and then also things to implement in their life, whether it's to change how they think about things or a tool. And we'll link some of the resources in the bio below. Awesome. Where can people find you if they want to find out more about real estate in DFW, if they want to just follow your story of success?
So you can call me 214-924-9966. My email is david.russell@EXP Realty. Those are the best ways to get me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I'm sorry, I don't know the monikers. That they have different ones.
I think it's the Russell team. It's like at
Russell
the Russell team.
It's
under Russell team. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Melissa. But I'm easily found. Just Google my name, David Russell Realtor in Dallas. I'm easy to find. Even if you want to talk about your journey, your story, and things I've experienced, I'm happy to converse about that and add any insight that I can.
Well, you're amazing. I appreciate you. See, if you're going through this experience, you're not alone. Everybody's got a team here. We all
all
did it
have
with the
to pull
team.
together.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Awesome.
Thank you, Melissa.
You're so welcome.
Take care.
Thank you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and if you know someone who would benefit from these stories of success, please share this with them. Check out David's website, follow him on his socials, reach out to him on he gave you his phone number. And thanks for tuning in to the Bouncing Back podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more inspiring stories of success. So until then, keep bouncing back. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Bouncing Back podcast, Professionals Thriving with Chronic Illness. I hope you found inspiration and actionable takeaways to support you on your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need a little encouragement today. Remember, thriving with chronic illness is possible. You are stronger than you think. Until next time, take care and keep bouncing